In my previous video, you saw how to basically develop basic single page Angular apps using editors like Maven's Mate, Aside.io, and Vulkan Suite. So these approaches were really good to start with Angular development for Visualforce, but as soon as you go matured, you want to list your app on App Exchange, you must be worried about your IP because all the HTML JavaScript code which is out there, and mostly in single page app, it comprises majority of your code. It's all open for anybody to see, and your IP could be taken out easily. So how you can protect yourself from that? So in this session, we will see how we can use like tools like this Salesforce plus Grunt plus Node.js to protect your IP and still develop a very good single page Angular app. So this session or this recording is basically for guys who are looking to protect their IP when they are developing a single page Angular app. So to start with some background on how we learned both the approaches. So this is dev post, which is called challenge post in past, and this is a summer of hacks event in which in 2014 we developed this app which is called Me You There Now as a listing on App Exchange. So we used all the approaches listed out here, especially the approach one suggested by Raja Rao. We have multiple basically Visualforce pages, and we developed this single page Angular app using those. Again, as suggested in previous video, we were basically in a pressure situation. We are in Friday night at the hackathon place, and then deadline was 20th July. So we are working day and night, and we are two developers who on this hackathon. So we didn't have that kind of luxury to learn all these grunt minification and code protection things. Our goal was to develop something demoable with some good looking UI within those 2 days. So we didn't thought about that kind of thing. Again, we are Salesforce developers as well. We didn't know that much of front end engineering tools. So that was developed using approach one. We were using multiple Visualforce pages, multiple static resources to achieve that same. But later on in 2014, when we are done with the hackathon, we decided that we should list this app on App Exchange, and then this code IP thing came out. So what we found after researching a bit, that one can possibly use tools like Grunt, which is if you are wondering what it is, it's something. If you say you are a Java guy, so you must have used Maven's, Gradle, Ant. So these are, I mean, similar things. They do tasks in a fashion like one after another. They compress file, they zip files, they download something, and they do a hell lot of things. There are a lot of plugins for each of these tools. Similar one is Grunt, but it is based out on Node. So we used Grunt here, and again for Salesforce guys, you know Ant because you use Force.com migration tool. So it's just like Ant. So that's the thing we decided to use, and then here we are. This is the app structure I'm going to show you next. So before I take a dive into this thing, let me show you an app really quickly. Let me start over here. This is the Lightning interface, and that's our app. So our app Mew there is basically for meeting somebody in person and finding out place. Typically, if you do this thing on your own on your mobile, it takes you to basically switch between two or three apps and your calendar, Yelp, or basically any place registry which suggests you which is a good place to meet. And especially for salesperson, it's a lot of time waste to then go to Yelp, find a place, then update contact, update calendar. So we just do it in 2 or 3 clicks. So for example, I want to meet Andy Young, and the way we have UI is these are all Salesforce event. This one is having a location final which is showing up here, but let's say I want to meet Andy, so I can hit this link called find places, which will show all the places near Andy's location, which is Sydney. I can see rating, how costly it is, how far it is. These are coming with distance and the hints about address. If I like this place, I can decide the meeting here itself, like I will meet at this place. It will ask me to confirm, If I'm not sure, I can possibly hit this details button. It will show me again some more details like where exactly this thing is on map. I can call the restaurant owner to figure out some things. I can see pictures of the restaurant to get a feel of the stuff, and most importantly, like reviews. So these are the things. If I like the restaurant, again I can do a meet here to finalize a meeting, and doing that will confirm the same. And I can do bunch of other things like filtering and all that, which I will show you later on. So this is a single page Angular app. I am not having multiple Visualforce pages refreshed here. This is a UI router based app with many HTML templates for each of this view. So to take a quick idea, again, just like previous demo, so this app is structured in a different fashion here actually. If you see, we have these high level folders here. This one is the source folder, which is having all my Visualforce pages and all the things which you can typically connect with your Maven's Mate. So in our case, this events page is the key page, which is the single page app. Then we are loading some CSS and all that stuff here. Then important thing to note is we are not loading multiple JavaScript files one after another. These are minified and combined together. This is something which is my way to basically make Visualforce communicate with JavaScript. We declare a factory here which is having all the context variables from Visualforce page, which could be now passed back to any JavaScript file which is available to any Angular code in the zip resource. And then I was doing UI routing here also, but this is again, I think a bad practice. After some maturity, you can possibly do it in a JavaScript file inside a static resource. So that's the UI routing which I have done here. And then finally, this is the last piece of the puzzle, which is the combined static resource having all controllers, services, all the directives, and everything related to them. This is the last bit of UI, which is basically UI view tag, which comes with UI router, which starts the basically this routing thing. So to come to the app structure, like how we differentiated it from what you saw previously, so it's not that different. We are still having a main folder which is having everything related to ng, so that's why I call it ng source, and this is basically normal source which is having my Salesforce code. So to start with, I will start giving you an overview of this app. So if you see in main, there is an apps folder, and then there are events, filters, places, detail, place list, and some shared components. So shared components are something which are shared, loading files, their templates, meet or cancel pop-up which I showed you, its template, and all those small things which I'm sharing across multiple views. And these are my four top level views. Like events is the view which you see here. Place detail is something, oh sorry, place list, let's see first. So place list is something which I'm sorry, I think I clicked on the event. So place list is something which you see here when you hit this thing. So that's the place list, and details is the same thing which comes here. Like this is the detail view. Filters are two folds. We have filters on the place listing where you can say where I want to meet, near me or near them. So as of now, we defaulted to the context location. Where do you want to meet? Then you can decide the type of venue you want to meet for drinks, coffee, or meal. You can define the radius in which you want to search restaurants. If you have a car, you possibly can go way longer. And then the distance units also. So that's the filter view which is shown here, like here. So it's having its own template, its own JS files. Similarly, that's the event view. It's having its own directives which are local to this thing. They are not related to anybody else. Its own list and its own test case. Similarly, there is a place detail, its own controller, its own view, place list, its own controller, its own view, and just like that. So that's the app structure for this Mu There app. Now, if we start how we are using Grunt and Node here, so let me get rid of these side things and focus on the key thing. So start with package.json. Every npm installer hunts for this file, and this dep defines the dependencies and things and all other details. So Grunt is the key thing I'm using. So I said I need Grunt, and then these are different Grunt plugins I'm using, like Angular templates is to compile multiple different template small files and combine them into a big JavaScript files, which are cached internally and they load a little bit faster. Concurrent is for concurrent execution of different processes inside the Grunt. For example, I can save multiple files together and upload them in parallel. Clean is for cleaning directory, compress is for compressing files, concat is for combining multiple files, copy is for copying files and directory. HTML min and uglify are the IP related things. They basically uglify this one. This uglifies the JavaScript file. This uglifies the HTML code. Watch is something which is a utility which lets you watch folders, and if you make any changes, they basically fire any task which you configure using any combination of these things. Shell is to run command line things. We are using force.com migration tool here. There is a build XML here via which we basically deploy static resources very quickly to the server. So that's what it is. So coming to the Grunt part now. So how we configure Grunt, just like you need a package JSON for Node to work, you need a grunt file.js for Grunt to work. So this is my Grunt file. I will start from the bottom. So these are all my different tasks which I loaded, and that's the way you load it in Grunt. This is a variable which I created internally, and Grunt code is mostly JavaScript code. If you know JavaScript, you can easily write a Grunt file. So this is mostly JSON configuration and little bit of JavaScript. So here are some variables for reuse across the whole Grunt file, like all of my app files, all of my JS files. If you see the structure, it is main app. So it is working relative to this main and then app thing, right? So it is main app here. Then there are inline templates. So we have two types of template. We have a template which is inline and one which is an external. So why we kept this difference? So if you see, this is an external template here, like this one. It's, I think, decently huge. It's having lot of stuff. And then this is an internal template. And the difference we are making here is we are using a naming convention. We say .tmpl.html means internal, .tmpl ext.html means something external. So why we are doing this, if you see shared components, you will realize why I'm doing this. These are some small components. This is a small component. This is a small template. So if you have multiple such small templates, making too many network calls can slow down the performance of app. So what decision I took at that time is, why don't I combine all of these small templates and then have a single JavaScript file which is having a cached version of these templates, so that it loads really fast. It doesn't make a network call for every small thing over the server. But the heavy templates which are having a decent sized stuff in them, like all of these, they should be their own file. They shouldn't be minified and combined together. I'm sorry, they are minified, but they are not compiled into a JavaScript files. So to give you some more idea what I meant by inline template compiling, so I have, I think, a demo file here. So that's how it looks when you combine multiple inline templates. It basically becomes a JavaScript variable which is ready to use directly, and there is this plugin which generates variables based on paths. So anytime I will try to load this path, it will basically give me the ready-made HTML. So there will be no network call involved. So that's the inline templating thing. Coming back to the grunt file again. So that's the internal and external template. Then we have templates JavaScript files, which are all the script files here and there. We combine them together. And then there is the single output file which we create. And then this is the name of static resource. So you must have seen this name before, right? This name was shown in the events page, which is the single Visualforce page for here, and that's where I load this app. So what is done here is, this is just a catalog of all the variables so that I don't copy paste the paths here and there. Now let's quickly walk through the different grunt tasks. So HTML min, it basically minifies all the views and generates them into a temp folder. So if you go to the temp folder, then you can see that these are, see, this is so ugly, right? You can't barely read it, and this is little beautiful, the same thing. So that's what this guy is doing. It's basically minifying everything and making it uh, compressed. And this is not only for IP protection, but it is good for, I mean, page performance also. If there is a lot of white space, HTML is not human readable for browser. They can understand it well without white spaces, new lines, and all those kind of things. So that's a performance boost also. Now let's see what else we have in our grunt task. I will possibly open it. Yeah. So next is we have ng templates, which we already saw right now, which is a basically combined and minified version of the template. So that's the ng templates, and that's what we are doing. We are saying, okay, find all template.html and then anything in shared folder and then generate a minified one. Similarly, we are compressing these things. So one thing which we are doing is we are combining many HTML5 frameworks together and all the view resources together. So any of the files which are there, then they are generated like this, like as individual minified things, but then we create a zip resource out of it. Like this is one zip resource, mut app views, which is uploaded as an individual static resource. So one fine decision which we took, and some guys might differ here, I personally prefer save speed and saving development time a lot, because I lose my patience when I see a saving spinner going on for minutes and minutes. My goal was to achieve a save time of 2 to 3 seconds or max 4 5 seconds for most of my stuff, which is literally tough when the app goes weak. But I never wanted to waste minutes in waiting for something like a save of a JavaScript file, a CSS file, or HTML file. So what we did is we created a frameworks resource which combines all the HTML frameworks I'm using and JavaScript frameworks I'm using, like jQuery, UI Bootstrap, underscore, and everything here. MUT app is all the JavaScript files which are combined together into a single resource. Like this is the ugly resource. And similarly, views is a combination of all the views. So what we achieve here is we upload these static resources differently and separately. So they upload little faster. So I save a lot on development time, but it, yeah, creates three separate resources. I could have easily combined them into one static resource, but it will be nearly 1 or 2 MB of upload every time, and which will take down my development performance down. So I want to stay productive, and I split them like this. So coming back to the thing, so that's a compressed thing which is going on. Clean is anytime we want to do clean builds, so that's a thing. Coming back to the concat thing, so here are some tasks which combine the files. Like I have all the frameworks listed out in order in which we want to generate them. So it just combines it up. Now I think you can do it even in easier way, because in 2014 I was learning Grunt and I don't have that much idea. But now there are plugins which can automatically scan your page, and they can basically uh, generate this stuff for you. You don't need to manually track the dependencies like this. So this is again the app file which is combining all the resources. These are just copy related tasks, not that interesting. If you notice, this is the shell task which runs the force.com migration tool. So we have one for frameworks. As soon as we want to deploy any frameworks, we have an deploy frameworks thing, which is just the force.com migration tool, which is deploying a static resource of all the frameworks. This is deploying the static resource of JavaScript files, and this is deploying the static resource of HTML files. Then we have, this is my favorite one, watch. It basically watches any changes in the JavaScript files, the code files, and any template files. So anytime anything changes, it fires up this task. So just try to match it here. Like if I match it, so MUT app is the task which is fired, which is defined here, and it just deploys it over, right? So that's the relation between this shell and the MUT app thing. Then we have a concurrent thing. Concurrent means that you can basically spin up two tasks in parallel. So this watch MUT app and watch views runs in parallel. So anything, if I'm saving pretty quickly, so it doesn't waits for save of JavaScript files to complete to start another thread, or basically it basically spins up two tasks which can let me save HTML files and JavaScript files together. And then this is the uglify task, in which I have kept a debug mode in which I set to true or false based on the production release or development build. In development mode, I mostly disable this uglifying and all those kind of things. I keep the console dot log and all those things and debugger as well. But as soon as it's a production build, all these things are whipped off automatically. So you are not basically shipping a code with console.log and debugger statements in it. So that's the Grunt script. And I think next thing is to give you a quick overview of the build XML. So this is the standard force.com migration tool XML file. All the passwords and things are here. We are having these three tasks frameworks, which basically deploys this generated frameworks thing, which we generate out of Grunt. So this is a static resource. It's package XML, which is having a single thing. Again, a single file here. Similarly, we have this build XML deploy MUT app. So it's having generated MUT app. So if you go here, again, it's a very simple structure, a single resource, a package XML. So again, note this is not for ideal development environment, but I want to minimize the time of upload and wait time to save anything. And lastly, this is the static resource for views and its package XML. So it's pretty, I think, relatable to all Salesforce developers. So that's the standard Ant build script which we are using. So I think enough being said, let me give you a quick demo now. Let's compress this folder. We don't need it now. And let's do some change here. Let's say I open this lists.js file, right? And let's try adding something here. So as of now, if I go back, there is nothing coming here. But let me add an alert. Let's say I say hello guys. But before that, I've missed one thing. I'm sorry. I have this grunt task running out. So if I kill it first to show you, I'm currently in this folder, mu there, ngsrc, this one. And all I need to do is hit grunt now. It will read this grunt file. And what I have said in this grunt file at the last is that by default you start concurrent. What concurrent means is you will basically start watching up these two things. And watching means anytime you change anything in that, that will basically start the deployment and all the building of the tasks. So this is the MUT app which cleans the thing, which generates a template, which uglifies everything, concats it and generates it. So this sounds like a lot of things which it is doing, but it is actually not. So let me just type grunt here. So it is having two waiting coming. It says I have started two views and app related task. So now let's go to this JS, and I'm now hitting the save button. So to get something in action, let me try to split the views. Okay, so this is this thing. Now watch it guys. So if I hit, let me do it this way. If I hit Command S, you will not see. If I'm hitting save now, so see, it immediately detected that there is something changed here. It says, okay, I have to generate an app template again. Now it's updating the app resource and creating it. Then it is starting the force.com migration tool, and it is deployed. So it took 18 seconds, but for this size of project, I think that is fine. It is still below the minutes benchmark, which could have been there. Now let's see if it really worked. So if I refresh this page, Okay, so see that's the hello guys thing which is here. So that's the convenience of this whole thing which I was trying to show you. And again, it works everywhere. Like if I remove this comment now, save it again, it will again start deploying. Same is for any template. Let's say I add some comment here. Let's say demo. So as soon as I add a comment here, it will start a process. So let me clean this screen because I don't want you to confuse. And now again, if I hit save, so see it says that the template is changed. It minified it, it combined it into a static resource which is called this, and now it is running the force.com migration tool to deploy it over. And it is done in 16 seconds. So that's the demo guys. I hope this gives you a context if you are looking to protect your IP and do more fun stuff on front-end development with I think Visualforce and Salesforce. I'm sure the guys who are developing on Angular 2 React, they might be looking to use something like this because it's very front-end engineer friendly, and eventually when you are releasing on App Exchange, it protects your IP. Hope you will like this video. Please share your comments.